Hi, good afternoon. Today is January 11th, 2026. And my name is Rinaldo J. Aguiar Marcano, and I'm recording this video from my home located at 2302 Britton Ridge Drive, Katy, Texas, 77494. And this house is located 300 feet away from the house of Mr. Robert Mueller, who was the director of the FBI for several years ago. And that is relevant to this conversation. So this would be demo D96. And this is going to be a very short session, just to record a few things that I've been meaning to record for a while, but I haven't gotten a chance to, and to kind of give an update on the, on the situation from the front. So I'm going to try to do this session fairly quickly. So I'm not going to go into very much detail, but my goal here is to just give, tips for authorities, which I know are already, investigating these things. So they, so they have something, right, that they could look into if they have cycles and interest in doing so. So anyhow, I have kind of a list of talking points, things that I want to talk about. Let me share my screen with you. Let me start by that. Which would be this. That's strange. 1 second. I see. Okay, so I guess it would be this one, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So let's see what's happened is that I've been working on these directories that I described before that basically think about them. I call them the red pages, right? In reference to the Communist Party of China, the Chinese Communist Party. Think of them as directories, right? As the yellow pages of the 90s, but instead of having mappings of names to phone numbers, it's mappings of addresses to scores in the database that was leaked by the Venezuelan intelligence. So that gives you an idea of the prominence of the agents, right? And I built these books locally for different localities, and a locality could be a city. It depends on how many agents they have, right, in that region. So a locality could be either a city, it could be a country, it could be, a series of countries. It depends, right? And I choose these regions, these localities, using certain statistical metrics, right? Like these choices aren't random. So the problem I had was that in this kind of work, like ranking, I'm talking about, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about technical things, right? And I'm gonna make references about this kind of work and how we used to do it at Google when I was doing that there, right? And this is not proprietary technology or anything. Just want to talk about the workflows, right? And these are things that are public. So when you're working on ranking, right, on search ranking and things like that, the problem is that you can tune something algorithmically, you can tune an algorithm, but you don't really know if it's good, right? Because I mean, as a scientist, as an engineer, you can make tweaks to it and you can see the results, but you are biased. Like you don't, your views on the results do not represent the views of everybody else, right? And even if you were fair, it would be a single point of view, right? And there's billions of individuals out there that may have different point of views. So that's a big problem, right? And the way companies tackle in the industry, right, tackle that problem is by combining algorithmic tuning with human input. Okay. So, for example, at Google, we used to use what we call raters, right? So these would be humans, people, that we would show them experiments, meaning, we would show them a version of Google search for a query, right? Imagine a query, I don't know, pizza New York, right? So you would show them the results as they are in production. And if you have a ranking change that you want to test, you would apply it, and then you would generate results with your modified algorithm, and then you will show them, right, left and right, and they don't know which one is the experiment, right? So it's a blind experiment. They don't know which one is production and which one is your test, right? And then they would pick, which side is better. But this is not. This wasn't done subjective. I mean, it's subjective, but there were certain guidelines that were developed to try to keep it standardized, right? So everybody had to judge the results. All the raters had to judge the results based on a specific set of criteria, right? And that's how you improve the algorithms, by testing with humans, right? Of course, you cannot test all the queries. You have to sample it, right? The reason I'm going into this explanation and this this path is because I had a problem. Is that when I started developing the directories, which are algorithmically generated, I mean, the ranking, I mean, the data is deterministic. The data is the data, right? The data is whatever is in the database. But I have a choice as an engineer on how to present that data, right? I could choose to present certain agents on the top, for example, at the beginning of a chapter. Or I could, I have certain design choices. And the question is, what is most effective, right? And this, what effectiveness is in this context is relative to different dimensions, right? I have to think about what is more effective to the user, to the people that are going to be consuming these directories, to understand who are the harassers, right? Who are the agents of Diosdado Cabello and Xi Jinping and those people. But I also have to think about, what is that hurts the most this network as I publish these books, right? Because my objective is to disarm them, right? To render what they're doing impossible, right? To do. So you see, here I have a problem, because if I could not employ the normal workflows that I would have employed at Google with queries, right? Because I don't have writers. I don't have any humans to tell me, well, what is going to be best for the users, right? For the end users, or what is going to be the thing that is going to hurt them the most. I mean, the network, right? Diosdado Cabello and his people. So this is the fundamental problem, right? Because I had to iterate on these books without having any human input. But then what happened was that they gave me an idea, right? And that's what I wanted. I'm giving you all this long introduction to tell you how I did it, right? Because the ranking is amazing. And I'm not telling you this to boast about the ranking or my work, but because I've gotten feedback from the informant, right? This is creating an existential chaos and panic in their side, right? So what happened was, right, and I mentioned this before, right? Like when I started doing reverse geocoding on the addresses in Caracas in late March, they took my son, right? And then they filed for divorce, quote unquote, right? And the temporary orders and the motion for psychiatric evaluation, all those things happen immediately, right? And the harassment from the HOA of this home suing me, you basically Phil Denning, right? Using the Roberts, Marco, Weinberg, Haley, Butler, PC law firm in Houston, right? At the same time, right? And I already talked about that. But then more recently, when I started publishing these books, and I published a directory with the regular ranking that I was using for the last few months, with that algorithm, right? And so what I did, I choose Beijing, right? And I published one about Beijing. Immediately, The next day, Troy Pickett filed a motion for, what was it? For sanctions in the 387th court. The next day, right? And there was a second incident. Yeah, there were two incidents. I can't recall what was the other one. Oh, the harassment with the pool, right? With the health inspector, right? At the same time. But you see, it's the same TTP, right? So if I say something, they trigger an action with the 387 court with Judge Telfair, right? Because that's their weapon. That's the only weapon they have at this point. Judge Telfair and the 387th. I mean, the judiciary, right? But the only thing they can do with the judiciary at this point is, sue me for sanctions and try to get me in jail for contempt of the void orders, right? That's basically the weapon. So when I published that book about Beijing, they triggered that. So they triggered the void order for sanctions and the fake hearing that we didn't know if it was going to happen or not. All this is documented, right? And the harassment with the health inspector because I need to drain the pool of the other house, right? And this is also documented. But you see, it's the same thing, right? So, of course, when I see that, I understand that this book hurt. I mean, creating a directory of agents in Beijing, right? Immediately. So basically, they took the same actions that they took in April. Harass me with the court and harass me with something else at the same time, right? So obviously, the directory hurt, right? So you see, but this, and this is what I was giving you the introduction at the beginning, this is in a way a form of rating, right? They were acting as my human raters, which I didn't have. But I understood that I could engage them and give them that job, right, of rating the books. So now I know that the books hurt, right? So the next thing I did, I started creating I had different variations of the ranking algorithm, how to position, how to position the agents in different places, right? I mean, I cannot change the data. The data is deterministic, and I cannot say that enough. I'm not changing the data. Like, the data is what came from the database. What I can change is how I present that data, right? The same in Google. Like, if you do a search for pizza New York, the pizza places are the pizza places. You cannot change that, but you can change which one you place on the first position versus which one you place on the 10th position, right? And that is the job of the ranking engineer. So, so what I started doing, and this is what you saw, that at the beginning I had different colors of the books because different colors represent different algorithms, right? And I started deploying different algorithms. So you see, there's two dimensions that I needed to experiment with. One is the proximity, right? Because it's not the same if I publish that book with that algorithm of the red book in Beijing as if I publish it in Ohio, right? If I publish it in Ohio, they don't harass me. But if I publish it on Beijing, they harass me with the course, right? That means that the people that are really paying for all these are in Beijing, right? Are not in Ohio, right? Obviously. So, with that I can test, who is in charge, right? I mean, it's not the smoking gun, but it's pretty compelling circumstantial evidence, right? And then, so that's one dimension, right? The second dimension is what hurts the most, right? What is the algorithm that creates the most panic on their side, right? That they see that can't really harm them, right? Because who can tell me? How can I tell if the algorithm will harm them? Like, the only people that can tell me that is them, right? And the way I can measure that is by the reaction, right? So that's why I'm saying that I am employing them as raters, right? As human raters. So anyhow, I started creating different versions of the algorithm, right? And until I got to a version, really, I tried different things, like with addresses, because the addresses are good because humans, like the end users, see an address and like, if you live in that area, what is in that place, right? And oh, so they took all the schools, they took all the clinics. Like, these things become obvious to people that live in that area. And they will be consistent with the things that I've said in these demos over the last 7 months. Like, you will see that they always take the clinics, they always take the schools, they take the preschools where you take your children. You'll see all these things, right? In the places where you live. It doesn't matter which country it is, they always do the same thing, right? But the minute, so then I created an algorithm, which is the atomic or nuclear algorithm that I described in the previous demo, that it has certain characteristics that, of course, I'm not going to tell them the secret sauce. I'm going to tell that only to the CIA and the FBI and the DEA, right? And the Secret Service. But I have that algorithm, right, with the secret sauce. And I started to be able to increase the recall, because one problem I have, and I described this before, is that, to decode all the addresses costs more or less $3 million, right? And I don't have that amount of money. So, my recall is reduced by the amount of money I could have spent on that I already paid, right, over the last few months on these addresses, right? And when I was decoding those addresses, is that Morgan Heibner sent that process server to harass me at my home, right, in April. So anyhow, I made a test, and my test was, okay, I'm going to deploy the nuclear algorithm, but instead of using addresses, I'm going to use the coordinates, the latitude and longitude. This way, I have 100% recall, because I don't have to decode it. Therefore, I don't have to pay anything. It's free for me, right? So I can post any address in the form of latitude and longitude. Of course, this creates the problem that is not understandable to a regular reader. Like if you're a housewife that is a stay-at-home wife, and you see latitudes and longitudes, you will not be able to understand, okay, this is the school where I take my kids to, right? But on the other hand, a military person sees these coordinates, and they work with coordinates, right? That's all they do, right, all day. So they see the coordinates, and they will understand, oh, so this is a secret bunker, right? Or this is something, right? A facility to store chemical weapons, things like that, right? So I made a test, right? And I started deploying the nuclear algorithm based on lat-longs, on latitudes and longitudes, on military coordinates. And in terms of the geographic dimension, I started targeting the countries surrounding Russia, right? That's why yesterday I said that I was watching Netflix. I was watching the Queen's Gambit, right? The last episode where she goes to Russia, right? That's why I made that joke. So I started targeting all the countries where Russia had military conflicts in the last 20 years, right? Of course, all of those places are full with these points in this database, right? And I deployed the nuclear algorithm with lat-longs, right? Including Syria. I started with Syria. The moment I did this, they, again, deployed the harassment, right? Phil Denning came out to take pictures of the front of my home. Then the USPS mailman came and hand-delivered a letter from the attorneys, again, from the same attorneys that Phil Denning has been using to harass me, right, for the last year. They came and again gave me a letter. This is to distract me, right? So they think that I'm going to stop publishing the books in the conflict zones of Russia, and I'm going to start making demos about the harassment. Of course, I'm not going to do that, right? I know that harassment is not going to do anything to me, and I know that because I know that you're running out of time. I know that already. I know that you ran out of time already. So, but it was immediate, right? The reaction was immediate. In less than 2 hours, they did all these things, right? So this, to me, right, as a ranking engineer, is the human signal that I needed. So this is where it hurts, right? So this is the perfect algorithm with the perfect geographical targeting. So, forget about the addresses. I mean, the human readable addresses, right? And concentrate on latitudes and longitudes with the nuclear algorithm, ranked by the nuclear algorithm, and deploy them in the conflict zones of the places where the countries that are the leadership of this network have had military conflicts in the last 20 years, right? And that's exactly what I did, right? So, I guess I'm giving you this story to tell you how I applied the same workflow that a ranking engineer applies to improving the queries at Google to determine which is the algorithm, the optimal algorithm to defeat them, right? And not only that, I use them as human raters, as my human raters to determine that, right? It's going to be one for the books, I think. So anyhow, yesterday, right after they approved my algorithm, my side-by-side, I deployed this book, this combination, in something like 35 regions in a space of 4 hours, right? Because I also already industrialized this process, right? I can deploy these books in 6 minutes. It takes me 6 minutes to deploy a new book, right? So I want to share with you the result of that, right? So let me yes, let me share this, right? So if you go to XisList.org, right? Let me do it here so you can see. It will take you to this page, to this dashboard. And here you have basically not all of the books, because at this point I have more than 90 of these directories published for different regions and countries in the world. But you have them here in a way that makes sense. That it's self-explanatory of what is that is going on, right? But if you want to see them all, you can click on this link at the top that says "Can find your region, see all 90 plus regions here." If you click on that, it will take you, and I'll show you in a second that page, okay? But so I want to show you the different algorithms, right? So you have the red book, which is the version 1, let's call it that way, right? Then this is based on addresses, on human readable addresses. Then you have the black book, which is an improved version of that, also with human readable addresses. The white one is an exception because that is Alaska, and that is what they use to, spy on the U.S. military using Alaska and to send the balloons and all that, right? If you know anybody in the military, send them that white book because they will immediately understand what's going on when they read that. Anyhow, you have here the different, let's call them organizers on the left, and then the targets on the right, right? And you see, basically, each organizer is targeting their neighbors and a state in the US. That's basically the split, right? One or more states, right? Depending on how, I'm guessing their ownership stake, right? I guess they split the US based on their ownership stake on the network. Anyhow, and here you have some interesting places like Florida, Texas, New York, New Jersey, right? But all these are based on addresses. And then the ones that are, these ones that are green are the ones that are military. So these are like, you can think of them as military manuals, right? And so they have latitudes and longitudes with the nuclear algorithm, ranked by the nuclear algorithm, and it's designed for a military person. They are sorted by latitude, right? So it's very easy to locate a coordinate using this manual. It's basically a grid, right? You can think about it this way. You start by locating the latitude, and then they're also sorted by longitude as a second key, right? So let me show you what it looks like, right? I mean, the cover, right? So this green book is the one that I'm talking about. That is basically the one that hurts them the most. When I did this, they sent Phil Denning to take pictures of the front of my home to harass me, right? With this is a longer story. I don't want to get too much into it, but what they did is that they planted. It's basically an agriculture attack. They planted a type of weed in the front on the front yard, right? And it's a weed. It's very aggressive. It grows very quickly, and in a matter of like 5 days, it grew like 4 feet, right? And then Phil Denning came to take pictures and to harass me with the HOA, right? Because of the weed, and they know that I cannot hire a landscaper for obvious reasons, right? They're going to use the landscaper sensors in the front yard. It's another form of harassment. So they did that, and they also filed something with the court, with the 387th, which was a mistake, really, because what they did was to give me the keys to escape the Texas judiciary system, right? When they did that, but basically they created another proceeding, Roy Pickett, right? For the 22nd, which is basically a threat of imprisonment, right? They're gonna try to imprison me for contempt, for not complying with the void orders that they create using fraud, right? But that gave me something to go to outside of Texas, to go to New Orleans, right? And if it doesn't work there, don't worry. Like, I can still go to the Supreme Court. But anyhow, so this is the one that hurts, right? And you know, it's in Lulu. Let me show you. Actually, let me show you an example, right? Let me see if I can do this here. I don't know. Okay, so for example, okay. Yeah, sorry for doing this on the fly. But... Okay. So let me present that. Okay, so in this example, this is in Syria, okay? Now, Syria is a complex place because, well, you know, it's a place where there's been countless military conflicts over the last years. Russia has been involved in all of them, right? And it's a place where there's been allegations of serious violations of human rights, you know, things that are discussed in the United Nations, right? And this place is full with these markers in this database, with markers of paramilitary operations, right? And I just want to show you, right, what this looks like. So the first section of the book is the top 2%, right? And so you see the locations are sorted, and I'm showing you this because you will see the volumes of this thing, right? So for example, this location, 36.63145, that's the latitude, and the longitude being 37.49 565. This place has a score of 273 million points, right? I mean, this is immense. This is an immense, immensely important point for them, right? I haven't debugged this, right? But it makes me curious what could be in this place. Right? You can see the immune geopatterns, right? So this is a place surrounded by land. Like it's impossible to intercept anything in this place, right? I imagine the actual location is something that is located here, right? It's the only thing that seems that have buildings. Right. So, but you see, so this is a question for the U.S. military, really, right? They are the people that would know what is it they probably have in here, right? But so you see, right? So the top place in this book, in this database that comes from the database that Diosdado Cabello gave me in 2024, the top place in Syria is a place with all these special characteristics. It could have fallen anywhere in Syria, right? It could have fallen in the ocean, in a lake. You know, like if you think about how vast the land is, right? This point could have fallen anywhere, and it fall in this place with all these special characteristics. Right? And if you look at all the other books in all the other countries, it's the same. Like these places fall in very specific things, right? And if you go down the list in prominence, you will start finding schools, and you will start finding hospitals and clinics, and airfields. Like It's never the case that the point falls in a random place or in nowhere, right? That has nothing. So anyhow, this is where it hurts, right? But um, and this is more the conversation I want to have, is that because like the attorneys, right, and the judiciary officers that are participating in the scheme to keep my son and to serve my parental rights, they started doing a series of things in the last few days, and I already documented them, right? Like, well, actually, I didn't say this. Yeah, I think I haven't said this. Also, I'll say it. After they created that hearing for the proceeding, right, for the 22nd of January, in which they're going to try to put me in prison, I went and filed in the Court of Appeals, the fifth district, the fifth circuit, sorry, which is in New Orleans. So you see, now I was able to escape Texas. Now I'm not in Texas anymore, right? So now this is outside. So I filed for a writ of mandamus to stay that, right? Because they're going to put me in prison to silence me. And I also filed a complaint with the DOJ, right? But after I did that, the Supreme Court of Texas denied my petition for writ of mandamus there, but they did not send me the order, right? Because what the sequence was, when I did this escalation, I filed a notice with the Supreme Court of Texas telling them I'm escalating this to, outside of Texas and to the DOJ. And immediately they denied. They haven't said a word in 40-something days. Like, they haven't issued any documents in 40-something days. They were just stalling the case. But the moment I filed this notice, mentioning the words, New Orleans and DOJ, then they denied the petition. I think it's because it kind of to explain that they did not see the notice, right? And they did this thing where they didn't send me the order, but they put that entry in the docket, and they had it not filed the notice that I sent them, right? They manipulated the docket, basically. And then I filed the same notice, but with the 387. And what they did there was kind of funny. They changed the filing in two ways. They created several typographical errors in the title, like kind of I'm guessing, right, to say that to change what it says, right, basically. And then also I set the document as public, but they made it private, so nobody can see it, right? But you see, and this is I don't want to talk too much about the minutiae of the procedural tricks that they're trying to do, but more about how I think this is naive, right? Because, they're trying to do this thing to kind of cover up what they've been doing for the last few months. And like sending the USPS person to deliver mail, right? That mail wasn't in the mailbox. Like, I don't know where he got it from, but obviously, right, he brought mail that was on hold on USPS. And I think they did that because I sent them in the notice a paragraph saying that send me the notice electronically because I don't have access to mail, right? I guess what they want to do is to send me the notice by USPS, so it takes 2 weeks, right, to delay the process, and I cannot seek relief because until I don't have the order, I cannot appeal it, right? But it's all these procedural tricks, right? But that's what I'm saying, that I think is naive, because you see, these, William Kyle Adams and all the people that have been collaborating with him have been in this campaign to silence me and to prevent me from disclosing this information that I'm showing you on the screen right now to the IRS. And you see, the same reports that I'm sending to the IRS, those reports are based on this same database, which contains all these points in all these places where there have been serious violations of human rights and terrorist organizations operating. There's correlation between where the points are located and where the basis of these terrorist organizations that are categorized as terrorist organizations, not by me, by the United Nations, are located. Right? So all these actors in these judiciary systems are participants in a network that sponsors terrorism, right? So this is not something that is going to be litigated in the 387 court or in Texas. This is something that is going to end up being litigated in the United Nations, right? So creating these docket tricks and sending the USPS guy to kind of say that I do have access to mail is naive, because that's going to be relevant in the conversation that is going to happen next. This is a conversation about serious violations of human rights across the planet. Like, this has nothing to do with the Supreme Court of Texas or with the 387 court or with the. I think it's very naive. And, thinking about that, it's surprising to me that people that are so high level. I mean, we're talking about judiciary actors that are very high level in the scale of things in the judiciary world, right? How can they not see that this is going to end up in the UN? I don't. It's hard for me to comprehend how is that I can see it and they can't see it. Them being way more prepared than I am, right? More educated, more. It's just I just don't understand how they can be blind to the reality. But anyhow, so I'm gonna leave these coordinates here in the screen in case authorities see this video. You get a good list of targets, right? So these are in this screen. If you capture this screen, you have at least 30, 40 good targets, right? So this is Syria, right? And I'm also going to give you something more. I'm going to give you Iran, okay? So in Iran, let me see. Right. If we do the same thing that we did before, right? Here you would have the top locations in Iran, right? And if you're curious about the scores, 158 million is the top one. To give you an idea of how high this is, Robert Mueller's home is 40,000. Imagine that. Robert Mueller, who is a figure, an international figure in law enforcement, his house is marked with a score of 40,000. This place is 158 million points. Imagine that. So it's 30,000 Robert Muellers, something like that. So 3,000 Robert Muellers together, right? Is this place. Imagine, put that in perspective. So anyhow, I'm gonna give you the coordinates here, right? So these are the top places, the top 2% in Iran, okay? I'm doing this here because the books, you can only print them, you can download them. Well, I imagine, probably authorities will have a way to get it from Lulu, right? But this brings me to another point. The informant asked me today why I haven't published this algorithm for Russia and China. Well, to be honest, I'm on the fence about it. But I think strategically, I should not publish it. Why? Because if I do, they don't have the algorithm, right? They don't have the secret sauce that I have, right? So if I do, they will know which are the top places. I mean, maybe they don't even know which are the top places, right? So I'm not going to tell them, obviously, because then they will move them. What I will do, I will give this information to the authorities, to the military, the FBI, the CIA, whoever comes talk to me. And if I can verify that they're the real authorities, I will give them the algorithm. And then I will create information asymmetry where the US authorities will know which are the places. And they don't know if the place has been compromised or not, right? That's the ideal situation for me. To assure my survival, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to give you a little bit more. I'm going to give you, so I gave you Iran and Syria, right? I'm also going to give you Ukraine, right? So I mean the top places in Ukraine. Sorry. Let's do a score check here. Yeah, so this is 74 million, right? So this is half of, so the top place in Ukraine is half the score of the top place in Iran, right? That gives you an idea of the priorities, right? But anyhow, here you have the top coordinates for Ukraine. Okay. And I'm going to go also a little bit further. And I'm going to give you Afghanistan, right? The top locations in Afghanistan according to this nuclear algorithm. Well, you see here, right? So the top score in Afghanistan is 671 million. So this is 3 times higher than the top place in Iran. So, you know, I'm guessing, right, that the US military can do something with this. Right, you see. 671 million, it's amazing. So I'm gonna scroll slowly so you get a bunch of them, right? So here I'm gonna give you more of the top 2%, because, you know, they've killed so many Americans in Afghanistan that I'm gonna spend a little bit more time on this one. I think this video at the end is going to be 24 frames per second. So even if I scroll fast, you will be able to get it, right? If you take the stills from the video, you will be able to see the numbers clearly. Okay, so, you know, I had a bunch of other small things to talk about, but, you know, putting things in context, right? Like the complexity of this global problem, the other things, you know, dwarfed in comparison, right? So I think to keep things separated, I'm going to cut this video off here, and I'll talk about the other things in a different video later. Okay. But basically, you know, the important thing is that I can see the correlation between me publishing books that hurt and then they going immediately to the 387 court to file something, right, to harass me, and sending Phil Denning to harass me with the HOA, right? It's there's an immediate correlation, 1-to-1. So, you know, just want to record that here so it's clear. And again, the naivete of the judiciary actors thinking that manipulating the dockets, they're going to get away with it, right? It's silly, really. Well, anyhow, I'm going to cut this video here. I thank you so much for your time. And please, I beg you, if you know anybody in the military, send them this video and these books, okay? Again, the address is XisList, Xi Jinping, XisList.org. And there's a link at the top where if you click on that link, it takes you to Lulu, and there's the list of all the places that are published, right? In fact, I think I should, before I close this demo, I should take you there, right? Just to give an idea, I'm just going to read. So you see here, there's 80 books in this list, right? So I'm just going to read some of them. Montana, Brazil, East Africa, Colorado, sorry, this is Germany. The title is wrong. New Mexico, the Emirates, Pakistan, India, Connecticut and Rhode Island, Argentina, Mexico, Oregon, Iran, Libya, Ottawa, South Africa, Switzerland, Afghanistan, Egypt, Arizona, Italy. The word East here is a mistake in the system that builds the books. Portugal and Spain, the United Kingdom and Ireland, West Africa, Iraq, France, Michigan, Georgia, the country, Kazakhstan, Syria, Israel, and the Gaza Strip. This one is amazing. I recommend it. Ukraine, Cuba. I don't know how to pronounce this properly, so excuse me. Nagorno and Karabakh. The Netherlands, Greenland, Utah, Australia, Taiwan, Tibet, Malaysia, South and North Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Alaska. That's the white book I was describing before for guiding the balloons. New York and New Jersey. So these are the black books. These are very good, right? But this segment is more about the military books. So in terms of military books, I think there's 34 or something like that at this point in these regions that I described. So with that, I'm going to close this demo. I thank you again for your time, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.